listening to Thunder Radio, the podcast of the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre.
On this episode of Thunder Radio, we have something a bit different for you. Christine Malott from Red Rising Collective came by our studio to chat about a new education initiative they are developing. The initiative includes an issue of the Red Rising magazine aimed at middle years readers, as well as 4 unit plans for middle years teachers. So you will hear that interview with Christine, and then we have a recording of a poem written and read by Tasha Spillett. And this poem is featured in the magazine and in one of the unit plans. So we hope you enjoy. So first I just want to start off by welcoming everyone to Thunder Radio. We are very excited today to have in the studio Christine Malott from Red Rising magazine, and she's here to talk about a new initiative that they are starting, and we are excited to hear about it. So we'll just start off with, for those people who might not know what Red Rising magazine is, and I think that everyone should, because I think it's just so fantastic what you guys are doing, but maybe just talk briefly about what it is.
Sure. So Red Rising magazine was created in 2015 by a group of Indigenous youth from Winnipeg, and it was created in response to the negativity that's often portrayed in the media when talking about Indigenous people. And, you know, this group just came together and they just wanted to change that narrative and really bring a different perspective into the mainstream about like what it means to be Indigenous and stories about indigeneity and a lot of the successes in the Indigenous community, because there are a lot of really great things going on in our community that haven't been showcased and are just now starting to be put out there. So
yeah, absolutely. I can relate, because I know that that's something we're trying to do here. We talk all the time about really trying to show the successes because they're not seen enough.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm curious. Were you all the group that started it? Were you all friends? Did you know each other, or?
Yeah, so they were friends. They were just a group of friends, and apparently it started over dinner, like at Stella's.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and then I actually joined later.
Okay.
So I went to university with a few of the members, and I just started this year with the magazine.
Oh, great, good. So you are embarking on a new education initiative with the magazine. Why don't you talk about that?
Sure. So I got started once I graduated from the University of Winnipeg and became a teacher. I really noticed that there was a need for Indigenous perspectives in the curriculum. And especially as an English language arts teacher, I'm always looking to include Indigenous literature in my teaching. And I mean, I noticed there was some stuff out there, like, you know, The Secret Path, they have lesson plans, but it didn't really teach how to teach about Indigenous topics. They just kind of give you the material and that's it. But I was looking for something a little bit more in how to teach in an Indigenous way. So I, reached out to the Red Rising Collective and I said, like, I want to be a part. I have a great idea for, getting this magazine into more schools, because I put it in my classroom and I noticed that my students were really drawn to it. They picked it up during like free reading time, and I noticed that even when they were looking at it, they weren't really reading it as much because it was a higher reading level. So we have like professors and people with their master's and PhD contributing to the magazine. So which makes it, not as accessible for like middle school, for example, that I was teaching. Yeah. So I really wanted to make it more accessible for younger students. So, and apparently there's people on the team already that, saw this need, and there's educators on the team. So we just linked up and started, this new education initiative.
That's great. And you talked a bit about where the idea came from, but maybe I'll just have you expand a little bit on sort of the spark of where it originated.
Yeah, and I mean, it just came from my own experiences as an educator and really seeing the need for having Indigenous literature and art in the classroom.
Wonderful. And why is Indigenous education so important for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students?
So we actually came out with a video that explains like Indigenous pedagogy. We reached out to the larger Indigenous community and asked them like, what is Indigenous education? And so we had a knowledge keeper, Sherry Copenis, and we asked her like, why is this important? And she said it so precisely. And she was just like, it's important to know about the history of the land that you're on, right? And that's just the most simple answer is, we're all living on this land. We should know about the history and the people that were originally from this land. So there's that. And then there's also, I think it's important for students, Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, to learn about their culture in the classroom and see themselves reflected in the curriculum, because it just makes it more relevant for them. And, when talking about Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, having Indigenous perspectives in the classroom can really help combat racism and stereotypes.
Absolutely, yeah. So just getting back to sort of some of the more specifics about the initiative, it's lesson plans. Well, there was a video, and now it's lesson plans.
Yeah, so our the very first thing we did was we held an idea jam where we invited educators from all around the city to come and collaborate with us and really help us answer the question, like, how can Red Rising better support you in your classroom? And the overwhelming majority of teachers said that they needed some, like, how to get started. They don't even know what to do to begin teaching about Indigenous topics. So that's where the video came in. So we released a video about Indigenous pedagogy, and you can find that on our Facebook and on YouTube, Red Rising Education. And so that was the very first thing that we did. And the second thing that they said they wanted was something for the middle years classroom. So a magazine that was more accessible, had a lower reading level, so they could use that in lower grades. So this very first magazine is a special edition education magazine that caters to grades 5 to 9. And along with the magazine, there are 4 unit plans that we're releasing throughout the school year. And our very first unit plan is identity, and that is available now. Our website is actually currently being updated. So to get that, teachers can email us at info@redrisingmagazine.ca. And so we're coming out with these 4 unit plans to accompany the themes in the magazine. And that's just our very first initiative. Like, we want to really expand into the elementary school classroom, high school. We have big plans for the future. So
yeah, I can see it in high school in particular being
absolutely
very making an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the magazine, it caters to the middle school years. I'm curious who did the contributions to it, or the writings and articles and things for it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we actually went through issues 1 to 6, or just regular magazine issues 1 to 6, and we carefully selected, poems, short stories, art that was more suitable for the middle years classroom, because we do have in our regular issues students that submitted work that made it into the Red Rising magazine. So we chose, especially those. We have like a poem by a 12-year-old girl, and and stuff like that. I think our youngest contributor is 9 years old. So she's definitely she made it in the education magazine.
And was that a piece of writing or art?
Yeah, it was a poem.
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
I know.
And what impact do you hope this will have?
I'd just like to see it in all classrooms, in all public schools, because our main goal is to really just inspire the next generation of youth and, have role models to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and so you mentioned getting it into the schools. How will you go about doing that? Or if a teacher hears this and wants it in their classroom, how do they get it into their classroom?
Yeah, so we're basically just doing it through social media and word of mouth. If teachers or school divisions, we have school divisions that reach out to us, if they would like to order our magazine or lesson plans, they can just email us at info@redrisingmagazine.ca. eventually we are going to have a system where they can order it through our website, but it's just being updated right now.
Right. And so if they receive the magazine and the unit plans, can you just give us a few more specifics about maybe what you mentioned, the unit plan identity, what maybe is in there, what the teachers will be teaching, what the students will be learning, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so the first unit plan identity, it's all focused obviously on, identity and what does it mean to be an Indigenous person and what does it mean to have an identity, whether that's Indigenous or not. So the students, there's a lot of like reading poetry, analyzing art. So that's where the magazine comes in. And then we also have them, explore concepts of identity and do different activities. And we're really trying to, instill the importance of culture in one's identity formation and really having that positive view of their culture.
Yeah, because I think that that's something that I've heard many times from educators, is especially for young people finding pride in their identity, how important that is.
Exactly.
So it sounds like that's a focus of this, which is great. So I watched the video that you produced. It was very good.
Thank you.
And at the end, you mentioned that you've been in contact with educators from around the world. So I was curious about if there are other Indigenous cultures that are doing things like this or that want to do things like this, or if you've talked with anyone.
So that came from having educators. We literally have educators from around the world that reach out to us and ask us if we need any help with our lessons and things like that. So we haven't started yet, but we do plan on, utilizing some of those people and their experiences and having really like a world Indigenous feel to our lessons. Because of course we're inclusive of all cultures, and so that's something that's really important to us. It's a little bit, it's been complicated, but it's something that we definitely are working towards.
Okay, great. And is there anything else you can tell us about this initiative?
Just that, we're really excited, and I practice these lessons in my classroom before I, put them into the unit plans.
Oh, that's great.
So they've been carefully thought out, and I'm really excited for more students to interact with the lessons.
Yeah, great. And you said there are 4 right now. Identity, what are the other ones?
Yeah, so there's identity, community, land and water, and then resistance.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here and for telling us about this. I think it's just such a great project. It's exciting because we work here in education. It's exciting to see things like this happening and getting out there into the communities. So
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Christine. And now, to give you a sample of what's in the unit plan, here is Little Sister, written and read by Tasha Spillett.
Little sister, I see you even if you have yet to see yourself. Even if you mask yourself in fragments of untruths of you, even when you cloak yourself because somewhere, sometime, someone has made you feel that to hide is safer than to shine as you were meant to do. Little sister, I wish I could speak into your mind sacred words of you so loudly that they are like the thunderbirds when they come to visit and wash everything away. I wish to make you a crowned sage to show all that rest their eyes on you that you are made of medicine and of royalty. Little sister, I will sing songs to you until your voice remembers that it was meant to dance. I will pray into being all that is needed to remind you that you are where beauty and strength come together to embrace. I will dance medicine into the path that we walk on so that it is again safe for you. Little sister, I see you.